Good morning and welcome to Supermania. I am your host, Catherine McCord. I am very excited about today's episode because we have a young lady with us who is quickly becoming something of a point of interest for me. We'll talk about why that is here in just a little bit, but she's very into the people workspace and all of that, like I am, and is also, of course, a neurodiverse woman as well. But I want to start by letting everybody know what the show's about if you're new to us. So, this is a show about neurodiversity, which simply means a difference in how your brain processes information and mental health. Sometimes we'll tie it into work, sometimes it'll just be personal. Today's topic is learning your neurodiversity. So, we're going to kind of go from, okay, now we've been diagnosed, now what? And what are some tools, some very specific tools that we can use to be successful as neurodiverse people? So, I would like to, at this point, go ahead and bring on the wonderful, wonderful Vannessa Blackstock. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And I would also like to point out you are our first international guest on this show. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you. And just tell us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself.
Okay, so hi everyone. As Catherine said, my name is Vannessa. I am international. I'm from Jamaica, a little island in the Caribbean. So yes, big ups to everybody from Jamaica. So yes, I am someone that is neurodivergent, and I'm learning more and more to be so proud of that. So I am a highly sensitive, introverted, codependent woman who has been diagnosed with OCD, social and generalized anxiety, and clinical depression, and in the process of being diagnosed with ADHD. Outside of that, I am a Christian. I love animals. I read lots and lots and lots of books. I'm obsessed with personal development. I love the Golden Girls.
Me too.
Yes.
That is one of my favorite shows.
Don't play. Do not.
Yes. I am something of a hybrid between Dorothy and Sophia.
Ooh, I think I'm fully Dorothy, like through and through.
I am super mean, so I'm definitely partially Dorothy. But Sophia has that little sting, and that humor. And I like to think that at some point I impart some sort of wisdom on somebody. So, all right. So we're going to talk. And by the way, it's just so anybody knows, because you went ahead and talked about your neurodiversity. So I have a couple of forms of neurodiversity myself. So I have bipolar 1 disorder. And then I also have a seizure disorder, not epilepsy, but sort of similar, that causes some neurodivergence as well. I would also like to draw attention to the fact that you use the term neurodivergent and I said neurodiverse, just so everybody knows those two things are relatively interchangeable. It's just different technology. I will post about that later in the week if you want to kind of learn the history behind that, a little bit more about the terminology. But just so you know, we're saying basically the same thing. We're on the same page. Okay. So, and I do see that somebody's saying that we're having a little bit of buffering issue, but that's okay. Hold on one second. Let me just post about that. So tell us, while I'm doing this, a little bit about how you came to be diagnosed.
So growing up, I had a complicated sort of childhood, and I grew up learning very early that I was different and off. And it wasn't necessarily a horrible thing. I think for me, it was just, oh, I'm not fitting into any of these groups. You know what I mean? And I thought in classes, things were not necessarily difficult, but I was learning differently. So that's when I noticed that something was off. I think as I got older, and I was always a research nut, so I was always reading up on things and becoming more self-aware and trying my best to understand what was going on inside. And as I had the verbiage, I was able to be empowered and educated on what was going on. So as it relates to getting diagnosed, it was in university where I was having a difficulty with sleeping and focusing in class, and studying seemed like an impossible task after coming from an environment where in high school I was on top all the time. It was, so it was a very strange feeling kind of off. And seeing a psychiatrist after a few weeks, and she was able to say, you have OCD. And I'm seeing a lot of anxiety, and I was confused because I really thought anxious people were just like not something I wanted to associate with because it didn't seem very positive. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm trying to
Oh,
fix
you're
the technical
frozen.
issues.
So yeah, just to continue. So yes, I that was when she first diagnosed me with anxiety and OCD. She was very clear about it. I thought I was just normal in terms of the things that I did and the way I liked things and the way my brain organized and processed everything. So OCD was very clear at that time. And right now, in the transition of being diagnosed with ADHD, just came from a lot of the symptoms I was having that I was connecting with memes, funny enough,
Right.
on Instagram. So that's how that
Memes were finally helpful for something. Uh, and first of all, guys, if you're having trouble seeing us on LinkedIn, you can join us on YouTube as well. So feel free to check out Supermania Show on YouTube. We're live on there as well. And sorry for the technical issues. LinkedIn has been sucky lately with that. So, so with this conversation, so first of all, OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder for people who don't know, and it can manifest in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways. What are some of the ways that it manifests for you?
early on as a child, I realized because I grew up in a chaotic environment, so I realized initially for me it was everything had to be in order and structured perfectly. So I realized in my little school bag, and this is something that I'm realizing long after, but at the time I didn't have the awareness. In my school bag, I would have all my books lined up based on height. My pencil case was slipped perfectly to the side. My water bottle was slipped perfectly. And it was apparently my way of trying to control something that I could control. Like my world was
Right.
hectic, so it was my way of controlling. And what got out of control at the time was I would see like persons would be talking to me, and I'm separating what they're saying in syllables of threes and twos and separating the words. And that was something that was going on and on and on and on. And I couldn't get rid of that sort of processing. And
Right.
yeah, and as I got older, it manifested in noticing license plates and organizing how many J's I saw for the day or how many D's. And if it was not even, I would freak out. And the volume for TV and radio had to be at an even number. Things, if it's not straightened a certain way, the world will end.
Right.
Facing
It's
me.
so funny. I want to stop on that because it's so funny. Sometimes we have to realize that the things that are in our head are not real life.
Yeah.
They're just not. Right. Sometimes, it's when something sets off our neurodiversity or an anxiety disorder, anything like that. One of the things that can really help is to realize that it's not real. It's not actually important. One of the things I've learned to do is grounding exercise. So I'll pick up something like I actually left these guys here. I usually take them down for the show, but today I'm going to bring them out. So this is actually, I got him at a convention and he's actually become part of my grounding exercise. So he has different textures on him and I can look at him and I can go through the textures and really focus on what my mind is receiving from touching this. I can focus on the colors and things that kind of get my mind focused on that so that then I can come back to a more what I call real space. That's just my term. That's not an official term, everybody. That's just my own little term. I showed you the last time we spoke, Vannessa. I have a little rabbit that's all furry that I use for that too. I have different squishy things. So tools are important. But the first thing to get there to learn education. And I want to go ahead and put this out there. Everybody's neurodiversity is different.
Yep.
Everybody is different. So it just stands to reason all of us respond to our neurodiversities differently. So what are some things that you did to start educating yourself after receiving your diagnosis? What are some things that you did to learn more about yourself?
Yeah. So initially, because I'm a nut when it comes to research, I started looking at articles online and reading up. And at that time, there weren't necessarily memes as popular as they are now, that those years ago, but at the time it was a lot of books and articles and trying to understand, okay, what is OCD? How can that be not necessarily a crutch or an issue, but something that I can, work to my
Right.
best advantage. And I think one thing the psychiatrist was able to teach me was how to manipulate that. This is a thing that not necessarily will go away. So how do we work on making it a part of your routine, but at the same time knowing how to handle it? So the obsessive part is the mindset and the thoughts that come in, those intrusive thoughts that I have, a lot of people will have. And then it's about the compulsion. So the behaviors that come afterwards. And for me, it's how can I learn to control that? And it
Yes.
doesn't work all the times, but I think that was the next phase of after diagnosis was the learning part of doing a lot of research, reading articles, medical articles, as well as, some persons that had blogs, and just realizing that, oh, it's not just me. This thing is like, it's real. Other people have
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to stress the importance of that, because yes, doctors will give you some basic information, but I will tell you guys that often their knowledge stops real quick
Yeah.
because they can't be specialists in everything, right? And they deal with so much. So it's important to keep learning and to find different sources. For instance, medical doctors versus psychologists versus psychiatrists versus people who work on it from a research standpoint, right? And looking through that actual research and the studies. It's important to read from people who also have the same thing you do and learn different people's experiences, because different things will click for you. So I just want to really stop. That's a very important part of coming to understand yourself, whether it's medically, neurodiverse, mental health. It's very important to learn for yourself. And then you have to learn you and your individualism. So what are some of the things that you've learned specific to Vannessa about your ADHD or your OCD?
So I thought, so for the ADHD aspect of it, because for me now it's the memes and reading those things and responding to comments online and realizing, oh my gosh, this video represents something I've gone through every day. So something specific for me, number one, is food. I know it sounds very random, but going to the grocery store and planning to go to the grocery store takes days in mental preparation for me and anxiety. The actual action of it now is where I'm sweating, I'm going, like, my mind is running. People don't know, but I'm walking in the grocery store looking awesome. I'm, doing what I'm doing, but I'm talking to myself throughout the entire process. I'm trying to keep myself distracted because I'm actually having an anxiety attack right there in the supermarket. And no
Oh
one
gosh.
like, my heart is I'm sweating, my head hurts. All the things
Oh
are going on
gosh.
at the same time. And I think the thing with ADHD is executive functioning. So processing the grocery list and having to go and what that looks like, and then the social anxiety aspect of it. And then when it comes to preparation of food, so with persons with ADHD, the difficulty is the ingredients list and executing the actual thing and cooking the food and meal prep, and all those things take a lot of processing and executive functioning that we have a difficult time connecting. So it seems like a massive task. And then it's the time processing. That's another one
Right.
that's difficult. So if I'm supposed to clean my room, yeah, you're gonna do that. For someone else, that's like easier whenever you do it. For me, it takes a lot of mental work. And the hump I have to get over is setting like a timer, or seeing
Yes.
seeing the smaller task rather than, oh, clean the room. No, it's okay, let me dust the bookshelf. Okay,
That's so funny.
that's what
And
happens.
but it's so true. I have to do things like that as well. And even on on my mania stages, I go just 90 to nothing, and I go bing, 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 just kind of all over the place and do so many different things that I use calendaring to literally calendar my entire day so that I know every single little tiny thing. So that's a great tool. I also meal eating, people don't realize how food impacts how what you eat impacts you. So do a lot of research about food and the things that will actually help you concentrate, things that will help you relax, things that will help you to, release the right chemicals in your body. And there is research on this, folks, by the way. There's all kinds of research out there. So definitely check into that. So a few
I
other
do want to
tools.
say, just based on what you mentioned as it relates to food, just going further, I mean, it's also the forgetting to eat. Like, it sounds so simple for other persons, but someone that has ADHD or ADHD tendencies, it can literally be forgetting to eat, like not scheduling time to eat food, like remembering that it's time to eat, to drink water,
Right.
to listen to your body. So it's a lot of, like, I have alarms in my phone now as I'm learning with my therapist. Time to stop, drink some water, go and get something to eat. And it depends on a good or bad day.
Yep.
Because a not so great day, it can't be going to cook a huge meal. Like, I'm not gonna be able to
Right.
do that.
Right.
Versus okay, what are some quick snacks or ways that I can still nourish my body, but still manage the fact that I'm not doing well? You know what
Right.
I mean? So
Absolutely. Yes.
meal
And
suggestions that I had to.
yes. And it's okay to adjust based on, so like days when I'm on a down cycle and I'm on a depressive cycle, I eat differently. And I'll have more little mini meals, to your point, because I know that I need to eat, but I don't feel the need to eat. So it's okay to adjust your routine based on where you are right then. That's okay. That is actually a very healthy thing to do. And by the way, to your point, so it's very funny. So my husband will actually forget to eat if I'm not here, because I'm the one that's like, now it's lunch, now it's dinner, now it's, and I keep such a tight schedule that he's told me, he goes, I just forget. Like I'll go 3 hours and be like, why am I hungry? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody came in and goes, hey, it's lunchtime. Come in here and eat with me. Um, so some other fantastic tools. We talked about grounding earlier, right? And using different sensory items, and different things work for every person. So find the things that work for you. I like to have all different textures around me, different colors, different experiences. Yoga balls are a big one. We just had Dr. J with us last show, and she was doing this almost the whole time.
Yeah.
And that is highly effective for multiple neurodiversities, including ADHD. It is very helpful. I've actually known a few people in the autistic community that found it very helpful. People with anxiety disorders that found it helpful. So that is something that is very common. It's a perfectly acceptable thing to work on a yoga ball in a lot of companies these days. And if that's something that works for you, we're going to talk in a minute about talking to your employer about that. A few other things. So I'm going to kind of go through just some cool tools that I found today that I was particularly excited about. One is called eye lighter, like your eyeball, and then lighter, like a highlighter. And it highlights and underlines reading for dyslexic persons.
Wow.
And for people that have trouble focusing their reading. There actually are other conditions as well where that's an issue. So eye lighter, and I hope I say this one right, Tuvalu is a whisper phone. It improves pronunciation and reading fluency.
Wow.
White noise apps are great for people that have auditory issues, that might have trouble falling asleep, that type of thing, which is all part of neurodiversity. Dyslexic workbooks, and there are other workbooks for other conditions as well, but I found one, and it's just called the Dyslexia Workbook for adults. And it takes you through different exercises that sharpen your mind and help you to be more in tune with your own neurodiversity. So that's a really cool tool. Mental Note is a great note-taking app. Really terrific. Sounds like maybe you have some of that or something like it that you use. Meditation and mindfulness apps are great because it will help you to be more in tune with your body, with where you are in your neurodiverse cycles. If you're in a cyclical type neurodiversity, it will help you to focus in more on you and yourself and what you actually need. And it's very important. My doctor preaches this. I've had my sister, who is a psychologist, has a psychology major and a counselor now. She very much preaches mindfulness and meditation. I even have a friend who works as a weight loss coach who teaches this. So it works. Mindfulness and meditation is important. And then the other thing that I really wanted to talk about that I thought was really cool, that is really cool, and I've used it a lot, is are fidgets, right? So like the poppy bubble things, the little spinnies, all those things. What are some of the things that you use?
So yeah, as relates to that, I have very soft stress balls that I keep everywhere all the time. And in doing that, it helps me to stay focused on task and to remain in the moment versus worrying about the thing I need to be fidgeting on or moving. And you'll see, like, even while you're talking, me moving, it helps me to remain focused. Sometimes I have also a cube fidget thing. It's in another room that it bends into many different shapes, and everything will help me to focus as I'm talking to someone, because again, you're fidgeting. And the meditation is incredibly important. I try to do that as often as possible. Does it work out all the time? No. So if I make it if I make it to 8 minutes, I'm doing great. And sometimes I'm making it to 10, but it doesn't happen often. But it does help to reduce that sort of anxiety that happens throughout the day. So it does help. Some things I wrote were like the alarms I have in my phone to remind me to eat, to remind me to take breaks. I set timers for activities to help me to say, this thing I'm thinking of doing, this activity, I'll not do it. And someone might look at you and say, oh, you're lazy. Versus not realizing what's going on in your head is the massive thought process of the thing to do, how to break it down, maybe having a hard time executing it and what that might look like in someone else's mind. Like all the things that are going on with me not executing a thing is me really trying and wanting to do it.
Right?
So timers to help me to prioritize. Okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and wherever I'm done, I'm done. I'm stopping, right? And that helps.
Yes.
Mel Robbins, philosophy of 5 4 3 2 1 helps with the procrastination paralysis, where okay, I don't want to do the thing. I think, but I know I need to do the thing. 5 4 3 2 1, move. Like try
Right.
one. Yeah, and I think as it relates to my codependency, I do want to say, and it helps with other things as well. And the OCD is the boundaries that I set with persons and with
Yes.
myself. Those are important too. So as you mentioned, even wanting to talk about work later on, those that really, really helps. My brain moves through different things and out of context sometimes, and in trying to bring it back, I just have to say, yes, I heard what you said. I'm listening. I hear you. But my brain is thinking of, why are pizzas round? Why? Who decided that? And I think,
I love that you immediately went to pizza. Like, I need pizza. Just, I need to know why it's round, and I need it in my mouth. Like, very quickly.
Yeah, who decided this? And then I'm like,
That's
hey, I'm
so
so
funny.
sorry. So it's a lot of that happening, which means, as you mentioned about notes, I'm taking notes all the time because I'll
Mhm.
genuinely forget things, not because I want to be rude or I'm not
Right.
paying attention.
And
I'll
it's
focus on something.
important.
I have to note. Yeah.
Yes. And it's important as employers, as other human beings, just if this is a friend of yours, to not take offense
Yeah.
to this and to realize that this is just somebody making sure that they're on top of it and that they have all of the information. So one important thing, whether you're an employer, a coworker, whether you're just a friend or a family member, is to learn the best ways to communicate with those around you. This applies for everything, whether it's your spouse, your child, your friend, your boss, whoever. It's important to learn the different communication styles and to embrace them. It doesn't mean a person is dumb. It doesn't mean that they're slow. It doesn't mean that they are not paying attention to you. They just have a different way that they need to communicate and different things that they need to do to retain that information.
Mm-hmm.
I actually used to work with a young man who would repeat everything back as you
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking. And not like every single word, but the basic concepts he would repeat back to you.
Yeah, I do that too. I'm like, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Is this what you're saying? Is this what you're
Right.
asking of me? Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. And that's effective, right? That's an effective way for them to communicate. So I think we're at the point now where it's appropriate to start talking about different is good. Different makes the world go round. We don't want a whole bunch of the same thing. It's boring. And so all we have to do is just pay attention to the different ways that people communicate, people think, that people process, and just learn about that. And it's not that hard, guys. I talk to a ton of people every week. So if I can do it, you can do it. And I also want to take this moment to ask you, so as you have done all of this amazing research, which again, I want to circle back is so crucial, guys. Research, 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 research. If you want tips on where to go, message me directly. I will get back to you. We have these tools that we set up, whether it's taking notes, reminders, things like that. What are some things that you've noticed that have improved for you since using these tools?
Sure. I think in using the tools for me, the significant improvement is realizing that the things that I associate with or the things that I've been diagnosed with aren't a issue. Like it bothers my life. Yes, it does. And I think that's when you get diagnosed. But how the tools help me are to stay grounded and to accept that yes, this is something that's going on, but also I'm massively effective. How do I make this a superpower? And for me, I'm the hyper focus aspect of ADHD allows me
Mm-hmm.
to finish a task in a quick amount of time. Like I'm not able to spend 7 hours on a thing. I'm really taking, less time that another coworker might take to execute a task because that's something I'm focusing on. Am I forgetting
Right.
to eat? Am I not getting up to use the bathroom? Maybe. But the hyper focus helps me to execute well. The OCD makes me aware of mistakes because I'm rechecking and going over and making sure that the fine details are done correctly. If it means doing a creative project, and you're going to make sure that you're going to get 10 out of 10 because Vannessa is making sure that everything is done perfectly. Does that hinder execution? Sure. Does that cause the perfectionist, paralysis and being stuck in the fine detail? Sure. But it's about management and
Right.
realizing that yes, it's a superpower, but then how can I go a step further and sort of
Yes.
manage how it's being executed? So it shows up nevertheless. You'll have these issues still come up, but using these tools help to say, hold on, yeah, this is a problem, but this is the good thing that's coming out of it, and I'm gonna ride
Right.
pony. That's the pony I'm gonna focus on.
Right. And
I'll
that's and
deal with
that's
the other stuff in therapy.
yes, exactly. And that's the thing is everything has, the good side and the bad side, right? And it can be frustrating to be neurodiverse. People, you know, we tend to focus on one or the other at any given time. But the truth is that while it can be frustrating, it's also awesome because of the different things that it can allow. So like for me, I work at hyper speed and with great attention to detail when I'm manic. It's crazy. Um, and I shouldn't say great attention to detail, but I do, I'll hit all the points and I'll really kind of hone in. These are things that are kind of the quote superpowers. That's the term I use, just kind of a fun term, but really it's the positive aspect of being different is that we all have these things. And so I like to focus on that because I think that it can be easy to get bogged down on the frustrating parts. I posted a video a couple of weeks ago of one of my seizure activity days. And I said, hey, this is a bad day. This is what it looks like. I'm shaking around like a Parkinson's patient. And that's just really what it looked like. I was shaking and I was twitching and that's just a bad day. But then there's all these awesome things that I get to do specifically because I'm neurodiverse.
Yeah.
So it's important to remember both sides.
Yeah.
And I do want to take the moment to talk about treatment plans because they're important. I don't advocate for medication. I don't advocate for everybody having a certain type of plan. I think it's different for everybody. Medication is different for everybody. Therapy is different for everybody. And what your specific needs are different, right? So even within those things, if you want to get therapy, what type of therapist works for you? But I do want to advocate for the importance of a treatment plan and maintaining it. Maintaining it. I know that you've formed your own treatment plan. What would you say to somebody who's, struggling to find their treatment plan?
I think the number one thing I'd say first is it's okay. Like, it's okay that it's taking a little while for you to get, kind of settled into what's going on. It's okay that you're not sure yet on what to do next. That's okay. I think step one for me with treatment was reaching out. Like, I was trying on my own because I can figure it out. What's going on is if they can do it, I can do it. And I think it came to just saying, but it's every day is hard. And why is every single day hard? Everything that I'm supposed to be doing that everyone else is doing, why is it so much harder for me to do? And reaching out for therapy was what I did because I got to the point of chronic burnout with my job and having severe other physical issues that were going on in my body and medical things. And reaching out for therapy was number one because what these things do, they really are heavy on your mental state because you
Yes.
then start looking
Yes.
inward. So for someone like me that's a personal development junkie, it meant fix the problem, you can do it. But hold on, I'm the problem. That's what was happening. So the mindset now was, so how do I fix me? Okay, I need to fix me. And reaching out to therapy was just saying, I don't know what else to do. And my depression was saying, we can't play anymore. We can't show the world everything is perfectly fine and we aren't. And my body was just like, we're not doing this anymore. So therapy was number one in terms of treatment. Talk therapy was important because one thing I do want to note is with all these diagnoses and even through my ADHD diagnosis process, one thing my therapist keeps saying is let's work on some basic things that you have been neglecting for many years, some habits that you have
Yes.
in doing for so many years that we need
And
to
it's
know.
amazing.
Yeah, because
It's amazing how much
is it
you've let
trauma?
go.
Yeah, because she was trying to relate to me like, is it we need to focus on the trauma, the little T and the big T traumas that happen to let you in, move you into the space of being incredibly highly sensitive, of being being someone that's codependent. having
Mhm.
OCD, social anxiety, clinical depression, ADHD, relations. So it's about talking to someone that knows more than you, that
Mhm.
can help to give you some tools, explain to you what's going on, and
Right.
work through some behind the scenes thing that maybe led to what's going on. So for
Right.
her, it's, are you drinking enough water? Are you eating? How is sleep? So these are some basic things that we're working
It's
on.
holistic. It's holistic. And
Mhm.
that's what I explained already. You need to find what the one thing I will strongly advocate for, other than just having a treatment plan and sticking to it in general,
Yeah.
is make sure it's holistic. So make sure that it's addressing your mental health, your physical well being, all of these things, and from different angles. So, find the natural things that work for you, find the medications that work for you, find the therapy that works for you, all of these things. Find what works for you.
Yeah.
Find what works for you. And again, be holistic. Find these tools that work for you, right?
And
We
yeah.
discussed.
Yeah, I think persons when I was listening to persons trying to get tips and ideas on what to do, therapy was, yes, number one on my list. But I think people think therapy is like the one all do all, and why am I not getting better? And I think for me it has been, I'm very practical and wanting to know the how. So
Mhm.
when we're in therapy, it's a lot about the why, which is great. But I think wanting to know the how is important. So that's something that
Yes.
she's also helped me with. So for me, it's the
How
meditation.
is very important.
Yeah,
Yes.
how? So for me, it's my routine, my day to day. Literally, I have a little teeny whiteboard that I write my morning and evening routine on. And it's literally, because someone with ADHD, it's out of sight, out of mind. So I literally write
Yes.
down brush teeth, da da da, take my vitamins, da da. Like I go through
Mhm.
my day because I need to have it scheduled in that way so that my brain knows this is what we're doing next. Because if I'm supposed to
Yes.
sit and think about it, I'll process too long. And it makes it easy
Yes.
on a day when I'm not feeling as amazing, to just know that, okay, this is all I'm focusing on, this is all, and having that hits the targets of physical care, mind, body, soul.
Right.
What am I doing for
Right.
my mind? What have I done for my soul? What have I done for my body? And it's important to have that sort of
Yes.
checklist. Yeah, so it tackles self-care,
Absolutely.
self-talk, how much time are you spending outside? Do you have a little cuddle buddy, like a toy, or
Right.
a dog or an animal? Have you reached out to someone? So I literally have on my daily thing of promises to myself, reach out to one person,
Right.
10 minutes in meditation,
Yes.
finish a liter of water today.
The
Like, those
whole
are
is
some
very important. It
holistic
is.
things,
And
mind,
so,
body.
yes, it is. And as we wrap up, I want to hit on that. So, have first, you get diagnosed, then you need to educate. So, go find research, the medical side, the emotional side, so like and the psychology and all of that. Reach out to others with the condition. Now, they won't be the same as you, but they
Yeah.
can relate to you and you can learn more and form a community. Then find the tools, right? So we gave several tools in today's show. I will be posting them in the comments as soon as we're done here. Then you have forming your routine and your health plan and your maintenance plan, right? Which will change, by the way, as time goes on. You have to evolve it, but form your holistic wellness plan. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the end of today's show. The last thing we're going to do is I'm decided we're going to have an education segment at the end of every show that's going to teach you about a type of neurodiversity. So
Yes.
today's neurodiversity is dyspraxia, and I
Mm.
hope I'm saying that right. It's
Yeah.
dyspraxia. And basically it manifests as, and I quote, this is actually from a medical site, clumsiness. So
Mhm.
it's something diagnosed in children who have delays with speech, who have delays sitting up and walking, some muscle weakness, things like that. It's a very rare condition, and it is something that continues through life. It can be associated with some learning disability, things like that. And that's what dyspraxia is. And basically, it makes them appear clumsy
Yeah.
when they're walking around. So that's today's neurodiversity. I want to thank you so very much for joining me, Vannessa. You've been an
Mm.
absolutely wonderful guest. Thank you. I'm sorry, everybody, for the technical difficulties. I don't know what's been going on with LinkedIn. It's been very strange. But thank you so very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day and come back next week where we'll have more guests, more education, and learn about even more superpowers.
Yes, because we have superpowers, guys. We do.
Yes, we do.
Bye.
Bye.